My journey in real estate started, ever since I was a kid. My mom actually was a realtor. She's been a realtor for over 30 years now. And real estate was like always a part of our family's life. But to be honest with you, it's not like I studied it or wanted to do it. I was just always dead set on playing baseball. And, my mom didn't try to push me into real estate. In fact, she always told me to get a safe job because she didn't like that, she was only as good as her next commission. She always told me, Ryan, you should really just get a degree and go work for the government. And, if baseball doesn't work out, get something safe. That was always her advice. And so she definitely didn't want me to be a realtor or any of these things. Well, long story short, I ended up getting drafted by the Oakland A's in 2010. So I was, living out my dream and my goal of being a professional baseball player. But I knew that as a professional, I was only going to make $1,200 a month while I was playing. And, that came out to $7,000 a year because we only played for half the year. And so I'm like, well, I'm 21 years old. I ain't going to live off $7,000 a year. So I got to go get, some kind of income. And so that's why I ended up getting into real estate in 2010 as well, because I got my real estate license thinking that, oh, well, I can just go make commissions in the off season. And if I make enough commissions, that should fund my lifestyle for the entire year. And I had watched my mom sell houses growing up. So I'm like, whatever, it can't be that hard. Well, in 2010, what I didn't realize was how difficult it was to be a real estate agent at that time. In fact, I would argue it was the most difficult time in the history of real estate. Seriously. If you look at the last couple of years in real estate, you would see agents who are panicking and like, man, dude, it's tough with high interest rates and all this stuff. But look, homes are still selling, people are still buying, and prices are still record highs. So if you do sell something, you make a great commission. Well, in 2010, that was not the case. The average house here in Las Vegas was $100,000, like new houses in an amazing city. So for me, as a 21-year-old, if I sold a normal house here, my best hope was to make like $3,000 commission. And here's the crazy part. I was reading all these books by like Gary Keller and stuff, and it was like, yeah, go after listings. And I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Get listings and you just chill. There was no listings to get in 2010. Back then, literally like 90% of people got foreclosed on. 90% of the listings in Las Vegas were REOs, meaning they were foreclosed properties. And there was only like, call it a couple of agents who had those listings because it was all relationship based with the banks. And so basically a bunch of agents or a couple of agents ran the whole town in listings. And there was like 10% of listings that were actual owners that owned the properties that didn't get foreclosed on and got killed by the recession in '08. So anyways, like listings were like a non-starter because you just couldn't get them. So I had to go be a buyer's agent. And let me tell you, I didn't know how to be a buyer's agent. And, I just listened to my mom and she's like, make newspaper ads. And so I did newspaper ads for like years. I would literally just take a HUD home. For those who don't know, that's a government owned home. And I would advertise the HUD home because I didn't have my own listings. And I'm like, yeah, beautiful home in Las Vegas is $100,000, 1,800 square feet. And that was how I would list them. So by doing that, I would get phone calls, usually from older people, because that was the only people that read the newspaper. And, I would just say, hey, yeah, I can go show you that property, or maybe it wasn't even available at that point. And that would become a lead, and I would go and try and sell deals. And I'll be honest with you, I probably sold like, 4 or 5 houses that off season, made like $3,000 a house. And I was like, dude, I made 15 grand. That was really hard, but that's enough for me to survive as a 21-year-old, along with the $7,000 I was making. So, I was basically making like 20 grand a year total for a few years. And, for me, after doing that for a couple of years, trying to do my pro baseball career and being a realtor, I finally got fed up one day because I was trying to sell a property to a guy. It was listed at $90,000. This house was literally 2 years old. Everything in it was brand new, 1,800 square feet, 4 bedroom, 3 bath. I'm like, dude, this is a killer deal, 90 grand here in Vegas. And he's like, can we offer 70 grand? I'm like, sure, why not? Nobody else is offering on this thing. So, we make the offer. And then literally the next day he calls me. He's like, you know what, dude, just cancel the offer. I just don't think it's a good deal. And I'm like, how is it not a good deal? He's like, I think prices are going to keep going down. And I'm like, dude, how are prices going to go down? Are they going to give the home away for free? I don't understand like how it could be lower. You can't build a house for 70 grand that big in Las Vegas. How? And he's like, dude, you just don't get it, but one day you will. And let me just tell you, I mean, I was like 22 at that point, maybe 23, and I was pissed. I'm like, dude, I would buy this house in a heartbeat if I had money, but I had no money. And so it just left a sour taste in my mouth because I'm like, I'm tired of finding these great deals and people don't want to buy them because they're freaking chickens. And it was pretty much at that moment that I quit being a realtor. I was like, you know what? Screw it. I don't want to do this. This is just not worth my time. And I'm tired of freaking babysitting people who are scared to make decisions. So I kind of stopped. And, it was around that time that, I got engaged to my now wife, Mindy. And I had to start figuring out other ways to make money. And, being a realtor wasn't it. And so I did random things like substitute teaching to kind of pay some of the bills. I was still playing baseball. We got married in 2013. I started couch flipping, which many of you guys know about. And that was way more lucrative than being a realtor. Okay. But, it was during that time that I was able to buy my first home. And, I bought a home for me and Mindy that we lived in for a couple of years. And, I later flipped it and made some good money on. But long story short, it wasn't until 2014, a year later on our 1-year anniversary, that I finally made the decision to start flipping houses. And the reason I made the decision was I felt like God was, calling me into it. I had prayed that night while we were on our 1-year anniversary in New Orleans. And I was like, God, what do you want me to do with my life? At this point in my career, I'm married. I'm making good money flipping couches, but I'm not going to do this the rest of my life. Baseball doesn't look like it's going to be, my end path. And I've already failed at real estate. I don't know what to do. And I heard him speaking, and I've only heard God speak a couple of times, like very clearly in my life. And this was one of them. And he was like, hey, real estate. I'm like, real estate? I don't know, man. Like, I don't even like real estate at this point. And sure enough, a few minutes later, I see a TV commercial talking about flipping houses and stuff with no money and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that's got to be a scam. Back then there was no like YouTube and TikTok and Instagram the way it is now, where like things like wholesaling and stuff are widely known. I had never heard of how you could flip a house with no money. And so, I ended up Googling. I'm like, can you flip houses with no money? What's up with the seminar? Blah, blah, blah. And then a website called Bigger Pockets pops up. And, on Bigger Pockets, I start reading forums and stuff, and they start talking about this wholesaling thing and everything else. I ended up buying their books, and one of them was by a guy named Brandon Turner, who's obviously a really good buddy of mine now, and he's been on the show, and he's actually speaking at our next WealthCon on July 19th to the 21st. So if you want to go see Brandon and some of these other amazing speakers, go to wealthcon.org and go get your ticket now. But, I read his book and it changed my life. He talked about how you could invest in real estate with no money, things like wholesaling, things like private money lenders, hard money lenders. And I was like, I get it. This is what I've been looking for 5 years. Back in 2010, 2011, when all these guys were turning down those deals, if I would have just known about private money and hard money, I would have bought them all and I would have already been wealthy. But, whatever. Better now than never. It took 5 years because I just didn't have the right knowledge. But from that book, I was instantly like, I'm going all in. And so I told my wife, Mindy, I was like, look, we're going to flip houses. I believe in this. We're going to do it. And a part of the story I've never shared is that, well, I've shared it a couple of times, but many don't know this, is on our way back flying home to Vegas, we were sitting in separate seats because freaking we were cheap. And I thought they would sit us together, but they didn't. And so, you had to pay extra for that. But nonetheless, it was all part of God's plan because I sit next to this old guy, and he's like, he sees me reading this book. I was reading it on the Kindle. And he's like, hey, what you reading? And I said, oh, I'm reading about real estate investing. I'm going to go flip houses. And he goes, hey, you don't talk to people much on the planes and stuff. I travel a lot for business, but he's like, I want you to know that God told me to tell you that you're going to be very successful in real estate investing and you're going to impact a lot of people because of it. And I'll tell you this, at that time, I would say, obviously I was Christian, but I wasn't as spiritually mature as I am now. I didn't understand that, this was him speaking prophecy into my life. And I was just like, oh, perfect. That's confirmation. I was like 99% for sure I was doing this, but that just was perfect cherry on top. I'm ready to go. And, on that flight, he was just talking to me about these different real estate investing concepts. Talking about, sub two and seller finance and carries and all these things. I had no idea what he's talking about. Obviously I do today, but, he's like, yeah, dude, I've bought so many. Oh, and this is what I forgot this part of it, but he goes, I've bought hundreds and hundreds of homes throughout my life doing all these different methods. And I was like, that's crazy. What are the odds? I mean, the odds are not like, they're not, I don't know what the odds would be, but clearly, God had a plan all along, and it wasn't baseball. It wasn't flipping couches. I mean, they were part of the journey, but clearly real estate has been the thing that has changed my life and many others. But, I went home and I was convicted, and I said, I'm going to go find a first deal. I'm going to go get a hard money loan. I'm going to go get all the capital I need. And so I applied for all these credit cards with me and Mindy's credit. I got $50K total from all of it. I got 0% credit cards. I got all those cool things, and ended up doing a balance transfer to get it all in cash. So I had $50K in cash from the credit. My credit score got tanked. It was in the 500s. I didn't give a crap. I wasn't looking to go buy or finance cars or anything. I'm like, I got to go make money. So ended up getting my first deal probably a month or two later, and locked it up, got a hard money loan, and bought it. Well, a couple of weeks later, I find another deal, and I'm like, all right, well, I still got some money left. I might as well just go all in. Bought a second deal. So I bought them both basically within a month, and I was off to the races. And sure enough, one of them closed and I made 25 grand 2 months later. And then the other one closed, I made 15 grand. And I was like, wow, I just made 40 grand in, 6 months. This is crazy. I've never made this much money, that fast and easily. And just so you know, for everyone listening, okay, this is lesson number 1 about this. At this time, I'm still playing baseball because I'm still pursuing my dream. I am also still flipping couches because that's what was paying the bills. Obviously in real estate, you don't get paid right away. When you flip a house, you got to put up capital like I did. And then you got to wait for it to sell, and it may or may not make money. But thankfully mine did make money, got all the capital back, got the profit. I had been flipping couches on the side to pay the bills in the meantime. I was still also training to go play baseball. So I was doing a lot, and I was married, and I was to be frank, yeah, I had confidence in what I was doing, but it was still unknown. In fact, I remember my mom, who I obviously trust in real estate, when I told her about the first 2 houses I wanted to buy, she told me not to buy them because they weren't in great areas. But for me, I just looked at the numbers because for me, it was just a numbers game. And I'm like, the numbers make sense, And so I bought them, and, despite, her not necessarily supporting it a ton, I bought it because I believed in what I was doing, and clearly it worked out. But, in the moment, it wasn't easy to manage all of those things going on. And I've never truly dove into all the emotional things that had led up to that point of, okay, you got your mom who's obviously experienced in real estate telling you maybe you shouldn't do this. I'm still trying to pursue this career in baseball. I'm still flipping couches to make money. I'm a year into my marriage, and I'm taking this big of a risk with all of our money. I had already failed at real estate as a realtor, and now I'm going back into it with those kind of fears. And the reason I bring all this up is because many of you right now who are brand new are going through similar things. Maybe you've tried and failed before. Maybe you've got kids in a while. I didn't have kids yet. So, that definitely helped. It'd be much harder today if I was starting from scratch and broke with 3 kids. But, you know, you may not have support from your family. I'm thankful that my wife supported me and she was good with it all. But, some of you guys might be dealing with a spouse that is kind of like on the fence with it. I can guarantee that almost all of you, and this is like, we've coached many, many people in real estate investing and wealthy investor, but I would guess majority of them had to transition out of whatever it is they were doing. It's not like they could just go quit and go start. Most people don't have enough savings and everything to do that, or enough courage to go ahead and do that, even if they did. So most have to balance multiple things at once, like I did. You might have to balance your W-2 and keep it going while also working on your real estate business on the side, while also still battling doubt from yourself and from those around you, while also battling, maybe a tough economy or, different things going on in your life. Debt. I mean, look, I was $50K in debt in credit cards to go do it, but I believed in it. So, I just want you to know, if you're getting started and you're at a very tough moment in your life, everyone, for the most part, started in the same place that you are. And so you can't use that as an excuse. Okay. It's not a good enough excuse to say, oh, I'm in debt. Oh, I got this going on. Oh, I have a job. There's no way I can be successful. No, you can be successful. You just got to do the right things every day. And in most cases, I'm lucky in that I was able to do it by just reading a book and listening to podcasts. 99% of you, that's probably not enough. Most of you need a mentor. That's just the truth. And I don't care if you hire us at Wealthy Investor or not, but we would love to do it. We've helped many people just like you, but at the end of the day, it's going to usually require mentorship to get you through the hump. Because once you do get the deal, there's a lot of other things that go into it. I kind of fast tracked and I was like, yeah, I bought the deals and then, I made 25 grand on the first one. Well, there was a lot of things that went into making that 25 grand and knowing that, oh, the deal's actually good. The numbers, I'm doing the calculations properly. What kind of repairs should we do? Oh, how should I list it? What should I list it for? What's this hard money lender and private, lending going to cost me? There's a lot that goes into it. And so having a mentor, being able to kind of like look it over and make sure you're getting into a good deal is super important. So that's number one. So for beginners, right? No excuses. Got to do it. Okay. Now, I proceed to continue buying homes at this point. I'm still playing baseball. So that first year I bought 5 houses. Okay. Sold 3 of them, made 50 grand total for the year. Going into year 2, obviously I have confidence now. I'm like, I believe what I'm doing. I got some momentum. I'm still playing baseball since 2016. And, I ended up buying 20 houses that year with the same model. I was just still maxed out credit cards at this point. I was still just getting, I didn't even talk about how I got the deals. I was getting deals strictly from the MLS and wholesalers. So I was not doing any marketing. I wasn't paying for it. I didn't have time to like call sellers. I was like, yo, I'll go on the MLS because I got my license and I'll look for deals. I would list my own properties at that point. I was my own agent buying them too. And I just started building some relationships with wholesalers and I bought some. It was also around 2016 that I started posting on Facebook. I started to realize that, if I post on Facebook about the flips I was doing, it ended up getting me more deals. And so even though I got into social media seriously during COVID, I was starting to see the benefits of it at a small level. And so, it's 2016, I buy 20 houses. I don't know how many I sold, but I made 200 grand that year. And I also had the best year of my baseball career in 2016. I led the league in triples. So I was feeling really good all the way around. That was kind of like my breakthrough. I'm like, wow, we just made 6 figures. I'm like, I literally was like, even if this is it, this is great. Life's great. If I can make 200 grand, play baseball, live life, we're going to be just fine. My wife and I actually ended up that year also selling the home that we bought when we got married. And then we moved into a fixer-upper that was a beautiful home. I remember this day. We paid 200 grand for it. We literally bought it on the last day before it got foreclosed on. It was like literally hours. Like I wasn't sure if it got foreclosed on or not, or if the deal closed, but it was down to the wire. And it was while I was playing baseball, and like I'm just refreshing the phone to see if it recorded. But we bought it for $200,000. We ended up putting like $70,000 into it. And then, we refinanced and everything else, and it was great. And I lived in that house for a couple of years and sold it 2 years later for, if I'm not mistaken, I don't want to misquote, but I think I sold it for like $450 or something like that. I can't remember, but it was great. And maybe it was $3. I can't remember, but we made a really good profit on it. But nonetheless, 2016, that was like my breakthrough year. So I go into 2017, okay, and now I'm starting to get a little attention. And up to that point, I'd flipped the first 25 houses with just basically myself and my credit cards and just reinvesting profits. Didn't have any private lenders or anyone else. So 2017, I actually met a guy at church. His name's John, and I'm forever indebted to him. And he's still he's still a friend, a mentor, an investor for me today. But he had a Bible study at his house, and I never asked him for anything during the Bible study. So I started attending the Bible study in 2016. And, after a year of him watching me on social media at the Bible study, seeing my character, he's like, hey, you want to go golf? And I'm like, yeah, let's go. So, we go to golf. At this time, I'm not a golfer, by the way. You guys see me today, and I love golf. I was a baseball player back then. Golfing messes up your swing, if you didn't know in baseball. So I didn't want to golf. But I'm like, yeah, let's golf, man. Like, be great to just hang out. And he asked me, he's like, hey, I see what you're doing in real estate. I want to park some money in real estate. At this point, he's retired and he's well off. And he's like, tell me what that would look like. And I was like, dude, here's my issue. Right now, I'm just cash strapped. I'm always reinvesting my money into the next deal. I got all these mortgage payments on all these properties. Like, if I didn't have to put my own money into all these deals, and if I didn't have to like make mortgage payments, I would be able to buy so many more properties. I was like, so if you can, fund the whole deal and then wait to get paid once the house sells and get your interest and everything, that would be like my ideal outcome. He's like, okay. He's like, I'm fine with that. What's the payout on it? And so at that time I was paying him 3 points and 12% to fund the whole deal and do what we would call now delayed payments, right? Or deferred payments. And literally, I was like, all right, cool. Like, that's a great deal for me. Let's do it. So I buy a first house, goes smoothly. We flip it. He gets his money, gets paid. He's like, great, let's do 2 houses now. So we do 2 houses and, whatever. And he's like, great, let's do 4. So, he's investing more. He's like, hey, you know what? I got some friends that are looking for ways to invest too. And, they've been asking me, and I think they'd be great investors for you. So he introduced me to some of my friends. I'll never forget, right? When he was making the introduction, they're here in Vegas. He's like, can we just show him a flip just to show him what you do? And I'm like, dude, let's just bring him to my new house, the one Mindy and I bought in 2016. And they can just get a visual of like what the flips look like, because my house looked like a flip. And so I brought him over to my house, and I'm like, yeah, this is what we did. Boom, boom, boom. Here's what the house is worth today. That, I just live in this one. And they're like, all right, cool. It's good getting to know you. Long story short, those people have invested, between him and his friends, and total deals and millions invested over the years, like gotten there and back. I don't even have a number off the top of my head, but it's tens of millions, at least 20, 30, 40 million dollars plus in total transactions we've done, of just capital they have sent me that I have then paid back, as part of just deal selling. And forever grateful for that. And more importantly, obviously that's what like really put rocket fuel on what I was doing. But also too, that Bible study was the catalyst for what is now Wealthy Kingdom, So that Bible study in 2016, it was for business people and entrepreneurs and everything else. It changed my entire life. And I started running my own around 2018-ish. And that in turn turned into Wealthy Kingdom. And now we have Bible studies all over the world, all because of his decision to do that. So I'm forever grateful for that, for his impact on my career, his impact on the kingdom. And, we're still doing a ton of stuff together today. So it's amazing. But yeah, 2017 when I met him, that was when things exploded, and because of finding him as an investor, I was able to do 50 deals that year, or I bought 50. I don't know how many we sold, but I remember I made $750,000 that year. I spent $0 on marketing. I had one person helping me, doing project management. I found all the deals, and I was still playing pro baseball. And so at this stage, once again, I mean, I want to say this as like least, I guess, arrogant as possible, but like, there's no excuses. You have enough time. You just got to want it bad enough, you know? You can do it, and you'll get momentum. It's hard. It was way harder when I was first starting, but man, like, it can scale quick if you do it right. And so, long story short, that year I went to go play, and it's kind of funny because it was such a weird season for me. Obviously I was killing it in real estate, and so I knew that was going to be my future. And I was coming off my best season, 2016, so I was super optimistic. I'm like, man, dude, I might get, who knows? I might go get signed by another team, and who knows, right? Well, the day before spring training, I get released, and I was like, what the heck? How are they going to release me? Like, I just had a great season. It made no sense. People on the team were like, man, like, this is weird. Makes no sense. So anyways, I'm like, wow. Well, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to stay here. I was in Fargo at the time. I was like, I'm going to just stay in town, wait for another team to sign me, and, whatever. Well, like a week later, one of their players, because I wasn't on the team then, got signed by a big league team. And so then they had an opening again. And so then they called me, and they're like, hey, we're coming back. We actually have the spot again if you want to come back. And I was like, well, dude, I've just been chilling here anyway, so let's do it. So anyways, I re-signed with them. And, I played the season, and it's crazy because, dude, I don't even remember the stat, but in the first 20 games or so, or something like that, 20, 30 games, I had hit like 6 home runs. And by the way, like, I'm not like this big home run hitter. I'm 5'10". I was leading the league in home runs. And I was like, I didn't expect this. This is crazy. But my batting average was super low. I was just like hitting bombs or striking out. There was no in between. And, on top of this, my real estate business was like going crazy, like I said, and I was getting super stressed. I wasn't stressed the other years I was flipping and playing, but I was getting stressed because I was managing all these deals, and I was like, holy crap. Like, I'm in the dugout, I'm on the phone, I'm sending emails. Like, you can go ask some of my teammates from that era. It was crazy. I was on the bus rides, like constantly working in between games and after games and all these things. So, halfway through the season, I ended up getting released. And I was actually kind of hoping something would happen because I was like, at that point, now I was having a bad season. I was stressed. But I've always had this mentality that I'm never going to quit. And so I was like, I'm not going to quit. I'll finish out the season. And in my mind, I was like, I'm done. I'll finish out the season. I'll be done. Well, long story short, I get released midway through the season. And, I had some other teams reach out, but I was like, nope, I'm good. I'm going home, and I'm about to start my life as a full-time real estate investor. So, I ended up driving home from Fargo. It's a 24-hour trip for anyone wondering. And, I get home, and I'm like, wow. I think I'm 28 years old at the time. I'm like, wow, this is the first time in my life, like, I could truly devote to something, to business. I've always been half in, half out, and I've been very successful. What would happen if I really went all in at this? And so I just start formulating a plan, and I'm like, okay, what do I want to do? Well, I'm like, I think the first thing you do when you're trying to grow a business is like you get an office, because I was working from home the whole time. So I go to my friend Nick, and I was like, Nick at that point was the guy who was helping me with project management. He started listing my properties, and I was like, Nick, why don't we open up an office and start a brokerage? I was still a realtor at that time. I was like, you be the broker. We're going to list all these properties anyways. We might as well just do it under our own brokerage. And and at that point I had a little Vegas following, on Facebook. And I was like, well, I think we'll probably get some agents who join too. It might make some money, whatever. Right. So we go get this little office in the end of 2017. So a couple of months after I get back from baseball, and we officially open up shop at Forever Home Realty. At that time too, I realized I was like, okay, well, my house flipping thing, I should probably brand that too and create like an actual company for that. I should probably actually go hire some people to help me find more deals. And so I create Home Run Offer. And it's funny because the guy who helped me create it, his name is Ben. And at the time, this is one of my best friends from high school. At the time, he didn't work for me or anything. We used to work out together. And we were just formulating names. And I got to give Ben the credit because as we were coming up with names, I was like, hey, I want a name that's good for like search engines. Some words that we need are like home, offer, cash offer, fast, offer. Like I was just throwing out like the keywords that people usually search. And he was like, dude, obviously you're a baseball guy. You said home offer. What about Home Run Offer? And I was like, dude, that's it. That's the name. And I ended up settling on the name. Nobody had the domain, so I bought homerunoffer.com for free. My friend Thomas ended up creating the logo. It's the same logo we use to this day, which is crazy because all my other businesses, I've changed the logos many times. Home Run Offers logo, I've never changed, and it's still great. Like I have no reason to change it. But I ended up getting the domain, building it out, all that stuff. And then I ended up renting out another office next door to Forever Home because we were starting to get quite a bit of agents at the brokerage, and I wanted to separate the house flipping and the brokerage. And so I rented out an office like a couple of doors down, a little 1,000 square foot thing, might have even been less. And I was literally like, hey, I made a post on Facebook. I'm like, hey, I'm looking for cold callers. Anyone who wants to work for me, show up here tomorrow at 9 a.m. And literally I had, I don't know, 7, 8 people show up. I was like, you're all hired. Oh man, I did not know anything at this point in my career. So I just go hire all these guys and I'm like, all right, so I got some list. Let's dial them. And they're like, okay. I didn't even tell them to bring like a laptop or anything. They were literally hand dialing list on their cell phones. That's literally, when I tell you, you could be successful and not know anything. I had already flipped 80 homes and made over $1 million in real estate. And I still was just so dumb thinking about it in hindsight. So, I ended up just having them dial. But here's the funny thing is we actually got deals doing that. And this is like a key lesson too, that I want to stress to beginners and people who scale. Like imperfect action is better than no action at all. Because we were calling, even though it was like, we should have had an auto dialer, we should have had other phones, because we were just taking action, it worked. I remember Nick, so funny. He goes, dude, Ryan, I've heard about this like text blasting thing. These lists we got, why don't we just text blast them all? I was like, all right, try it out. See what happens. And then sure enough, we got a deal that day from one of the people who responded. I was like, this is crazy. I can't believe like that worked. So yeah, so many funny times in 2018 and just like that first year of figuring out like what being an actual business owner was like. And now that I think about it, I totally forgot I did this, but it was also during this time in 2017 and 2018, I decided to coach high school baseball because I kind of knew my career was coming to an end and real estate was going to be the thing. And I was like, man, but I want to give back. And so I ended up calling the high school baseball coach, like that's like for the high school that's across the street from my office, Spring Valley High School. And I was like, hey, you don't know me, but been a pro baseball player for like 6-7 years. And, I just want to come help out. I want to give back to the kids and coach and all these things. I was like, you don't have to pay me $1. There's no expectations. I don't want to be the head coach. Like, I just want to help. If I can help him hitting, if I could throw BP, if I could, whatever, that's good with me. And he's like, yeah, let's go. So I did that for 2 years. But the reason I bring this up is because in 2018, I was still doing it. And man, that was a hard thing to do looking back in hindsight, because that year in 2018, when I went all in for the first time, we did 150 deals. I made over $2 million that year with very little marketing spend. I might have spent less than 200 grand. And that was obviously some serious money. Never seen that before in my life. But just trying to go coach high school baseball and manage that kind of operation. By the way, we were not wholesaling. We were only flipping houses at this time. So, I mean, I had like 70 flips at once. I mean, I scaled quick. It was crazy in hindsight. But, I ended up, getting through the baseball season. Love those kids. A lot of them, some of them even worked for me. But it was great. And, the reason I just bring that whole story up is like, you can still pursue your passions while building your business. I still was obviously in love with baseball. And, I just went and pursued becoming great at real estate as well. And wasn't easy, but I was able to do both and kind of have like a good ending to my baseball portion of my life. So anyways, that year was the first year we did direct marketing to sellers. So, I mean, we did like cold calling and SMS, and that was basically it. Well, as we go into 2019, something interesting happened. This is my first like shift in the market. So the end of 2018, they raised interest rates, and, all my properties are sitting. And I realized I had totally mismanaged my cash flow. I was getting all this money for properties to fix them up and everything. And I thought I was flush with all this cash. And the reality was I actually did not have enough cash to fix up all the properties, because I had used the cash to buy more real estate. I made this grave mistake of just not accounting properly. And I've talked to a lot of our students in Wealthy Investor over the years who have, fallen to a similar mistake. And I always share the story with them to let them know that they're not alone. And I'm sure many of you business owners, especially real estate investors and house flippers, know exactly what I'm talking about, where you're like, holy crap, like, I am out of money, like, how do I own all these properties? How did I make all this money, but I'm like out of cash? Well, it's because, you mismanage your cash. And in this case, that's what I did too. I had mismanaged my cash. And that was a very scary time for me, because I'm like, wow, how did this even happen? I made $2 million and my bank account is just dwindling and dwindling, and I have all these properties and all these hard money payments and everything else that's happening. How? And it was just because I'd literally just kept taking that cash and buying more deals. So, a third lesson from all this is you can go broke buying good deals. And I almost did. So, that was a stressful time in my life. And I'll tell you guys this too. I've talked a lot about faith in this story, but the only thing that got me through it was faith. When it went down and I just was like, man, holy crap, I don't know what to do. I just prayed to God, and I was like, God, what do I do? How do I fix this? And he provided a way. At the end of the day, it led me to wholesaling. At that point, I had never really wholesaled. And I was like, we got to make cash today. And so we started wholesaling. That brought in some cash. I opened up lines of credit that I had never had before. So I remember I got a $100,000 unsecured line of credit. This is a funny story. I bought a new house in 2018 as well. And I ended up living there for almost 5 years. But it was a brand new home. So it had no backyard like done. And so somebody had told me you could get a pool loan, to do your pool. I was like, oh, okay. So I had applied, and it was like, yeah, you're approved for $100,000. And I'm like, okay, so do they send it to the contractor or what? And they're like, no, they just send you the money right then and there. They just wire it to you, and then you just go use it. And I was like, really? Well, let me get that pool loan right now, and I'll figure out the pool later on down the road. I need the money now, not the pool. So I ended up getting a pool loan, and I got the unsecured line, started wholesaling. And sure enough, like that ended up helping me get through the storm. It was also this year that I did my first ever event. So 2018, I started Future Flipper, which is now Wealthy Investor. And that's crazy to think about too, that, I've been doing education 7 years now. I wrote my first book in 2018 called Flip Your Future. And, at that first event was Brian Davila, who many of you know, one of my first students. And, I charged $3,000 for that event. It was a day at my office. 10 people signed up. I made 30 grand. I was like, wow, that was crazy. Made my first course that year. Didn't sell any courses. I had no idea how to be a guru. I didn't want to be a guru. Because I was doing so great at real estate investing. I'm like, I don't need to be a guru. I didn't even really want to coach people. The only reason I held the event is because I had so much demand for it. And like I said, I was like super worried about cash. I'm like, look, let's throw an event, generate some cash. I got all this demand. Let's do it. So, we ended up doing that. And, 2018 came into a close. And, as 2019, I got through the situation. That was the first year I ever experienced losses in house flips, really, because my properties were sitting. Some had dropped in price. I had losses. And the only way I was able to withstand it was because I ended up, wholesaling and getting more good flips. And, I got through the storm in 2019. And we did basically the same thing that year. I was just MLS, wholesalers, texting, cold calling, nothing new really that year. I should also add to this that 2017 was when I started buying rental properties for the first time. So, I was mainly flipping wholesale like I've been saying, but 2017, I start buying rental properties and I bought random stuff. I bought at first I went in Facebook groups and I bought houses in like Pennsylvania, Arkansas, Indiana. I was buying houses for like $7,000. I bought a duplex in Saginaw for $12,000. I literally bought a triplex in Pennsylvania for $12,000. This house was 2,400 square feet, and I got it for $12,000. And the sad part about this house is that I was like, bro, it's $12,000. This thing's gonna make $2,000 a month. This is crazy. This is not the 1% rule. This is the 10% rule. Well, sure enough, when you're in other markets, there's a lot you don't know. And I had it for a couple of years and I finally sold it for $23,000. And that was after some repairs and stuff. And I'm like, and also too, it was a triplex, but you couldn't use the top floor. So it was really a duplex. There was a whole bunch of stuff that went into that. But long story short, my experience buying all these cheap, crappy homes made me realize that they ain't worth it. They'll never be worth anything. And the cash flow ain't what it seems because one repair is worth more than the home. So to anybody thinking buy these $10,000, $20,000 homes, let me do you a favor and say, don't do it. So anyways, I start doing that. 2017, I ended up buying my first house in Big Bear to do Airbnb. And it's funny because at that time I was just looking for a second home. I had made great money and I'm like, dude, it'd be cool to have a second home. And I start researching markets and I settle on Big Bear because I'm like, okay, it's 3 hours away from Vegas. It's close. We like the forest. That's cool. And I just looked at them like, dude, these prices are undervalued. I can't buy a cabin. I can buy a cabin in Big Bear, California at that time for $200,000. And I'm like, this is California. Where do you buy houses for $200,000? You could go to Aspen or Mammoth or these places and they're all $400,000 to $500,000 at that time. So I'm like, this is severely undervalued. And then, at that point, Airbnb was not this poppin' thing that it is today. It was new. But I was looking into it, doing some research, and I said, whoa, this thing could rent probably for $4,000 a month. And in the high season in the winter, it's gonna get 10 G's a month. And I looked at it and I was like, these numbers are good. I'm going to buy this. So I bought it and, my mortgage was $1,400 or something cheap. And I ended up renting it out and it did exactly what I thought it was going to do. I was cash flowing thousands. a month. And I was like, this is crazy. I got to buy more of these things. So I just go on a buying spree in Big Bear. I bought every good deal I could, and I was just getting them off the MLS. Ended up buying like 10 properties that I bird, and they were making like $500,000 a year in revenue or something crazy. I don't remember, but long story short, then Big Bear started to put all these restrictions in place because everyone was going up there, and at that point the party stopped. Prices started to rise a lot, and they kind of stabilized or caught up to like what the rents were and stuff, and stopped buying there. And I actually started selling off some of them because a lot of my properties had doubled and tripled in value. But that was my first experience, like really buying a bunch of properties out of state. Also around 2019, I started to buy some rentals in Vegas too. It wasn't for cash flow. Even then, there was no real cash flow, but bought some properties in 2019. Actually bought my parents a house in 2019, and that was when I officially retired them. So that was fulfilling, and that was super cool to see. But what's crazy about that story too? So I bought them a house in 2019. I'm trying to remember the numbers, but I want to say I paid like $240 for it. It was like 2,200 square feet, and it was right next to my high school. They just love that area. And so I bought them the house, fixed it up, everything, and it was all good. And then I bought them a new house in 2022, I think. So I upgraded them because they really wanted a single story and a bigger lot. So I got them a 3,000 square foot home on a half acre. It was like $600,000 before, that's what I bought it for, but I don't know. It's probably worth $1 million now. But I ended up selling their home when I sold their home this year. Actually, I think I rented it out after for a couple of years, and I want to say I sold it for like $500,000. So it's funny because even though I helped them by keeping that house, like if I would have flipped that house, I would have made, I don't know, $30,000 or something at the time. But by keeping it and retiring my parents, I ended up selling it and making $250,000, which essentially means they were free to live there. It cost me nothing to retire them because I bought a great deal and real estate went up. So it's kind of funny to look back at it in hindsight because by making that decision to help them, I didn't flip it and I ended up helping them and it cost me nothing. In fact, I probably got paid to help them. So just a cool thing to think about in hindsight now that it's happened. But anyways, 2020 comes and, obviously we know COVID happens in 2020, but also something happened. So, 2019 was a rougher year for me because, like I said, we were like getting through all the losses of 2018, all these different things. Also, my son James was born that year in 2019 in January. And for those you don't know, he's 5 years old now, but he has special needs. And so he was in the NICU for 2 months. And dude, it was just a rough year. I shouldn't really skim over that year because it was very influential into what is now the wealthy way. It was during that year that, he's born. My wife is really struggling to take care of him. And I'm like, okay, I'm trying to like recover from the business and build it. My wife's struggling. I have a kid now. What do I do? And so I start working from home on Wednesdays. And I called it Work From Home Wednesdays to just help her out. And I'll never forget that. And she'll never forget it either because it wasn't easy to do, but I knew it was necessary for my family. And just that first year with James was so difficult, not only because when he was born, he was in the NICU for 2 months, but also at the end of the year, he bumped his head and had a brain bleed. And so he actually had to have emergency brain surgery. And I didn't know if he was going to pull through it or not. And so like that year had so much influence on my life and how I perceived the world because I just remember praying during that time. I'm like, God, I would trade all of it just to make sure he's okay. I would just give up all the real estate, the business, everything, if you could guarantee that like he's going to be fine. And, he pulled through, and he's totally fine now. He still has special needs, but, God gave him to us for a reason. And it was just like, it just changed my perspective on life and what was really important. And so, I go into 2020, all of that's behind us now. Business is picked up. James is good. Also, I forgot, Mindy gets pregnant again. And, we're trying this new marketing strategy called TV commercials because I had heard that it was a good thing at a mastermind I was in. And I started doing TV commercials. And I spend 20 grand the first month and get 0 deals. And I'm like, holy crap, I just lost 20 grand. That's a good start to the year. Well, I end up starting to go on appointments myself to try and go figure this thing out. And I end up locking up a few deals, and I'm like, okay, good. All right, this is working. That's good. And then COVID happens in March and shuts it all down. I should also add, man, now that I think about it, Q1 of 2020 was a crazy time because not only did we start TV and I started to do that, but I also started to take education serious. So, I started the All-Star program, which many of you guys have probably heard about. That started in January of 2020. That was when I first finally started coaching people in real estate after everything, because I was just like, you know what? I'm just focused on my businesses. I don't want to be a guru, whatever. So 2020, I start the All-Star coaching program, and we had 8 people sign up. So it was during this time, like I said, I'm trying TV. I got this coaching program launched. Real estate's going really good again. We had our first mastermind in my house in the living room. So it was in February of 2020. And then COVID hits. And at this point, I got 50 house flips going on. I'm like, dude, I don't know what's about to happen. They're saying the economy could go belly up. I don't know. And I just remember praying. Once again, this is a theme. I started praying. I'm like, God, what do you want me to do? There's nothing I can really do. I own these properties. So if they go sideways, I'm toast. Also, I can't even go on appointments anymore because everyone's scared. So my TV commercials don't work because they only worked by going on appointments. We couldn't close them over the phone. So I'm like, crap, I don't even know how we're going to get deals. So yeah, I don't know. And this was probably the second time I really heard God speak. I was like, God, what should I do? And I just once again, it became this vision. And I was like, social media. Now, mind you, at this point, I had a little following. I had 5,000 Instagram followers. Nothing crazy. But I was very well known in Vegas because I was killing it in Vegas. So I was well known here, but not really across the country. So I ended up getting just, usually when I get this idea from God, I'm still always waiting for confirmation. And so I ended up getting these DMs and texts out of the blue, in the same day. Someone was like, hey, Ryan, your content, on Instagram's really good. Why aren't you on YouTube? And I was like, YouTube? Who watches YouTube? I'm not going to be on YouTube. Then I get another one. And somebody's just like, yo, dude, you really should think about starting a YouTube channel. I was like, this is weird. And I turn on YouTube and I just see all these videos about COVID and everything happening. And now my mind's just this is interesting. It was also during this time that my friend Kong was like, Ryan, you should also be on TikTok. And I'm like, TikTok? Freaking who watches TikTok? That's a stupid app. It's a kid's app. Well, during COVID, I had no choice but to watch social media, which I did not watch a ton of. And I started to come across all these people that were killing it on TikTok, not entrepreneurs, but just normal everyday people, because no entrepreneurs were really on it yet. And then I also saw, these YouTubers, people like Graham Stephan and Meet Kevin and some of these other guys, and they started talking about how much money they were making as YouTubers. And I was like, what the heck? These guys are making millions of dollars talking to the camera about real estate. And I'm over here with 50 These guys don't even know what that's like. They have no idea. They just work from home and make videos. They have no staff, no risk. And they don't have half the knowledge that I have. And that was just a fact. when it came to real estate. And I'm like, holy crap, like this is who everyone watches. This is crazy. And so instead of being a hater, I was like, all right, well, I'm going to start making content. And so I bought all of their courses on how to create content. I bought every course I could find. I reached out to people, hired mentors, and I soon realized that making content wasn't as hard as I thought. It's actually very systematic, very much like a business, like flipping a house. There's a process to the idea, to the title, the thumbnail, all of that. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to make content. So if you watch my very first YouTube videos, they were in my dining room table, and I actually had like freaking not lined up hair or anything because we couldn't get haircuts during COVID. So I also then started making TikToks literally on my phone myself. At that time, there was no editors, there was no agencies, none of this stuff. It was new. So I made my first 700 TikToks on my phone myself. My first YouTube videos, I filmed them on my own. My wife edited them, and that was it. There was no team. And dude, it blew up. That year in 2020, it blew up. It was crazy. I ended up getting 75,000 YouTube subscribers, like 400,000 TikTok. My Instagram blew up. I was like, this is crazy. Along with that, education blew up because obviously with social media, people were trying to figure out how to get into real estate, and I was making great content. So people joined. And I remember that year in education, I went from like making nothing in education for 2 years to doing like 700 grand, that year, not knowing anything about what we were doing. It was crazy. So along with that, as far as the real estate side goes, clearly, COVID ended up amplifying real estate. And I had my best year ever in 2020. We did TV. It was crushing. As I became more of a guru influencer, I was able to pass off my business and have other people do the appointments for me. And it basically ran without me for actually many years. Which was amazing because it allowed me to focus on the content and the education and other businesses. But, that year in 2020, we had our best year ever. And, we did a blend of wholesaling. We did a blend of flipping. And it was great. I bought some more rentals. As we went into 2021, it was clear that social media was going to be my priority because I was having so much success and the opportunity was so big with that and other businesses that I just was kind of like hands off on the real estate side. And so, 2021, same thing, we're just running TV commercials. We're buying from wholesalers and flippers and or agents and stuff. And, basically Home Run Offer just stays status quo, 100 plus deals a year. It's just cranking, doing its thing. I buy some more rentals, education blows up. Our events are starting to get bigger. My social media is getting bigger. Also this year was the first year I started buying or started a fund. So in 2021, we bought our first apartment in Georgia. And, that came from my friend Tim, who's like, bro, like with your influence, you could start raising money. And so we bought an apartment into 2021. Then we go into 2022. And this is an interesting year because the market had been red hot in 2020, red hot in 2021, red hot in the beginning of 2022. And all of a sudden, they double interest rates, midway through 2022. And so this became the start, unknowingly, of a very, very difficult time in my real estate business and honestly in my life. We had all these flips going into it, very much like in 2020 and everything else. And we made so much money from 2020, 2021, early 2022. But, I had like 50 house flips. And when they doubled interest rates, basically the same thing happened again that happened to me in 2018 where properties now sat. So anyways, I had about 50 properties that went into that period. And I didn't really know how bad it was going to be. Lo and behold, it was much worse than I thought. And those properties lost me a lot of money, millions of dollars. I don't even want to count the loss because I just don't want to deal with it. And I still have like one or two more that are finishing off still from that era. So, it sucked just dealing with that. as you know, and that bled into 2023, and then obviously, like we're saying, there's still a couple in 2024. So, it's tough, but the way I look at it is you just can't only have the good. As a business owner, as a real estate investor, you're going to have unlucky breaks. You could do everything right. Like we bought all those properties right. We just didn't know they were going to double interest rates. They've never done it that fast before. And it was just kind of like you're stuck holding the bag. And what I am grateful for and what I am proud of is that every single investor on those deals got paid out. They got paid out their principal, their interest. I just had to personally write checks. And this was a, tough thing to do. But, I'm grateful I was able to do it because of just having businesses, having rental properties, wholesaling. We basically did all these things to basically cover those losses. So, 2022, I wouldn't even say 2022 was a hard year because we actually didn't see the ramifications from it until 2023. It was just kind of happening in 2022. And, during that year too, I will say, since 2022 was technically like an okay year, we also bought more apartments, and that was great. Raised more capital, bought some deals in Iowa, which was amazing. The team was still functioning without me very well, and it was all good. But 2023, like I said, a lot of those properties ended up selling, had to pay all this money out. We had to really shift our strategy at Home Run Offer. We had to start doing way more creative finance. We had to do things like novation. That really kept the lights on and got us through a tough time. We bought another apartment in 2023, which was great, but, raising capital in that environment was really hard. And, like multifamily and commercial real estate has really, gotten hit even harder than single family. And so, in hindsight, buying properties at that time was also like bad timing, but, thankfully most of it's going well. So, once again, right. I'm never going to sit here and try to sugarcoat anything. I'm just going to always keep it real with you guys. But yeah, 2023 is a very tough year for real estate investors as a whole, myself included. But it was just more about the same, right? In 2023, we bought multifamily, but I didn't buy like any single family rentals or anything. That was like the first year in the last 5-6 years that I didn't, because it was hard to make anything pencil out with the way rates were and are still today. And also too, it's just like, it's more about survival mode when you're in those situations where it's like, no, we got to flip. We got to make money today. We got to do what we got to do. And we'll worry about buying, rentals and stuff later, and I think that's a big key. I think a lot of people, they have this idea of like, oh, I'm falling behind if I don't buy rental properties or if I sell a rental property. That's not true. You got to just do what's best in that season for your life. If you're just brand new and you have no money, you shouldn't buy rentals. You should go flip and wholesale because you ain't got no money. You can't even make a repair or a vacancy. It'll crush you. So, there's a season for everything. And what I am grateful for, the only reason I was able to get through it all is because I had rental properties that I had bought, and I was able to sell some of them and get cash to cover those losses. So I'm just super grateful for the assets that I built up over the years. But anyways, 2023 was like I said, tough season as a real estate investor, and just kind of like fighting and just getting through it, to just remain standing. Thankfully on the other side of things, 2023 was a great year in my other businesses, and, all of it just, basically panned out, and, we were able to get through it. Then now we are in 2024, and 2024 is very interesting because, I still think the economy is very weak. I think that real estate's in a weird place because rates are still high, but there's no supply, so prices are going up. Rentals in major markets still don't really pencil out, right? Buying, you can't really buy a rental here in Vegas, and you can't burr it and it'll cash flow. It just won't. And I know many places like California and stuff, it won't either. You can definitely get it in the Midwest. But I'm not like super focused on acquiring rentals right here at this very moment. I'm still just focused on building a top tier wholesaling company. I'm actually getting more away from flipping. It's not like I'm against flipping or anything, but it's like, as I've just kind of grown in my career, I've realized like what I'm really good at is marketing and sales. And that's what wholesaling is. And it's far easier to scale wholesaling. It's far less risky. The last year, I endured the pain of paying off all these flips. And I'm like, you know what? Wholesaling's got me through really tough times. And I think I could scale this thing way bigger. I truly believe I could get to doing 100 wholesale deals a month, if I just really focus on it. And so 2024 is a year for me where I'm hyper focused on just building out our wholesaling side at Home Run Offer. To do this, we're actually made our biggest shift we've ever made in that, we're not doing TV anymore and we're all in on Facebook ads and they're bearing really good fruit. So I'm excited about that. We're doing it in Vegas. We're doing it across the country. I even started another division in the company where we're running Facebook ads for other people and taking a profit split. And so that's already been super fruitful. And for anyone who's interested in that, if you are actively doing deals, this is not for newbies. Okay. If you are actively doing deals and you would like my team to run ads and generate you leads at crazy, crazy cheap cost for inbound, then you can go to scalewithryan.com and you can go apply to potentially have us run your marketing and partner up with you. But I'm really excited about both those things because they're bearing great fruit. Wholesaling is very much easier to scale than flipping. It fits into my strengths of being a great marketer and a great salesperson. And being able to go do it for other people too is like very scalable. So very excited with where we're going. It's still the early stages of it, but I think that that's going to be our path here for the next many, many years to come. And I'll take all that wholesaling money and, I'm basically going to start identifying some, other market opportunities where I can get cash flow. So it'll probably be, big multifamily in the Midwest. I mean, that's what we've been buying in Iowa and those assets are performing great. And so I think I'll start buying some more of those. Whether it's with my fund at Pineda Capital or just for myself individually. So that's kind of the game plan in 2024, really build out this Facebook ads, the nationwide wholesaling, continue to just build that to becoming a monster because I just know like, man, there's no reason I couldn't do 8 figures a year doing that. And then, when you're making that kind of cash, go invest it into rental properties. That's the game. That's what I've been doing the last decade. And it's served me well, even in tough times. And in good times, it serves you really well and life's good. So, that's the front on that. I can say too, just like obviously social media and education are still a focus. I love our community at Wealthy Investor. I love training. I love doing content. So that stuff will never change. But I do realize that the last, let's say 3 years, my focus hasn't been on growing my flipping and wholesaling business because it was busy growing these other things, which was the right decision. But now that those other things are built too, I have a decision to make. Hey, what's the best opportunity, and what's the best use of my time? And I do believe that going back into the real estate side is going to be the best use because I think that I can build it up to being a machine that generates a ton of cash. And then I can also, build up the long-term wealth through rental properties, which is what I've always done. So super excited about that. But, in total now I've been in this game for 15 years. I've done over $100 million of real estate investments that I've like bought and sold. I think it's over 700, maybe more now at this point, 700 flips. I think we've got over 650 rental units that we manage right now in the fund and my own personal rentals. I've done a lot in the real estate space. Not licensed anymore. I forgot to mention that. 2018, I gave up my license. Part of that was we built the brokerage up to 200 agents as well, kind of like on the side, but I got rid of that too. And so now it's like my life is pretty simple. I just want to grow those things, grow the social media, grow the real estate business, grow the education business, grow our nonprofit at Wealthy Kingdom. And like, those are the things I'm focused on. And it's exciting. So hopefully, you learned something from my journey, getting to hear it fully in depth. Hopefully you could relate to some of the things, whether it was the highs, the lows, the in-betweens, the uncertainty, whatever the case is. And hopefully it gave you some encouragement. But if it did, make sure to subscribe. I'll catch you on the next one.